War movies often fall into the trap of sanitizing the grotesque or glorifying the horrific, but David Ayer's 2014 masterpiece Fury refuses to do either. It is a film that smells of diesel, wet wool, rotting flesh, and unwashed bodies crammed into a steel box. Set in April 1945, deep within the dying heart of Nazi Germany, the film does not concern itself with the grand strategy of generals or the overarching morality of the Allied cause. Instead, it narrows its focus to a microscopic, claustrophobic point, the interior of a distinct M4 Sherman tank named Fury, and the 5 souls who inhabit it. This is not a story about liberation, it is a story about the erosion of the human soul when subjected to the relentless grinding of the war machine. The film opens not with a fanfare, but with a visceral depiction of survival, where a lone SS officer on horseback traverses a body-strewn battlefield, only to be brutally pulled down and stabbed in the eye by Don, War Daddy, Collier. From this very first frame, Ayer establishes a tone of intimacy and savagery that never relents. The narrative architecture of Fury is built around the dynamics of a dysfunctional family unit operating under extreme duress. Brad Pitt's War Daddy is the patriarch, a battle-hardened sergeant who has kept his crew alive from the sands of North Africa to the mud of Germany. He is not the charming, scalp-hunting lieutenant from Inglourious Bastards. He is a scarred, weary man who has hollowed himself out to make room for the violence necessary to protect his family. That family consists of Boyd, Bible, Swan, played with fervent intensity by Shia LaBeouf, who preaches the gospel while operating the tank's cannon, Grady, Coon-ass, Travis, portrayed by John Bernthal as a feral, animalistic mechanic whose aggression masks deep trauma, and Trini, Gordo, Garcia, the driver played by Michael Peña, who represents the weary loyalty of a man who has seen too much. Into this tight-knit, hardened circle comes the intruder, the outsider, Norman Ellison, a fresh-faced typist played by Logan Lerman, who has been thrust onto the front lines due to a clerical error. Norman serves as the audience surrogate, the clean slate upon which the horrors of war are about to be written in blood. The genius of the film's first act lies in its refusal to coddle Norman. The crew does not welcome him. They resent him. He is a liability, a break in the chain of their survival. The tank itself is a character in this drama, a rattling, claustrophobic beast that offers protection but also serves as a potential tomb. The production design captures the clutter of their existence, the hanging trinkets, the grease-stained photos, the half-eaten rations. It is a domestic space perverted by violence. When Norman is ordered to clean the seat of the gunner he replaced, he finds the devastating remnants of the previous occupant, a piece of a face. This grotesque initiation signals that there is no innocence here. The film's pacing is deliberate, moving from the suffocating interior of the tank to the gray, overcast exterior of the German countryside, where the mud seems to swallow everything. The color palette is desaturated, dominated by grays, browns, and the dark green of the uniform, punctuated only by the terrifying neon streaks of tracer fire. The tracer fire in Fury deserves specific mention because it remains one of the most controversial yet stylistically bold choices in the film. Looking like laser beams from science fiction, the green and red tracers illustrate the sheer volume of lead filling the air. While some critics found it distracting, it serves a crucial purpose: it visualizes the terror. It makes the invisible visible, showing the deadly geometry of tank warfare where a single angle can mean the difference between a ricochet and a fiery death. The combat sequences are choreographed with a heavy, lumbering weight. Unlike the kinetic, shaky cam chaos of modern action films, the tank battles in Fury are slow, methodical chess matches played with heavy metal. The encounter with the terrifying Tiger Eye tank is a masterclass in tension. The Sherman tanks, outgunned and out-armored, must use speed and maneuverability to flank the German Leviathan. The sound design here is earth-shattering. The metallic screech of the tracks, the thunderous boom of the 88mm cannon, and the ricochets that sound like church bells from hell create an auditory landscape that is physically exhausting for the viewer. However, the true heart of the film, and its most unsettling sequence, takes place away from the battlefield, in a quiet apartment in a captured German town. War Daddy and Norman enter the home of 2 German women, and for a brief moment, the film shifts from a war movie to a tense domestic drama. This scene stretches on, uncomfortable and laden with unspoken threats. Is this a looting? A rape? A respite? War Daddy seeks a facsimile of domesticity, a hot meal, a clean shave, a moment of quiet. He encourages Norman to bond with the younger woman, Emma, creating a bizarre, fleeting romance amidst the ruins. But the tension explodes when the rest of the crew arrives. Their intrusion is aggressive and rude, shattering the fragile illusion War Daddy tried to construct. The dialogue here is sharp and cruel, particularly from Bernthal's character, who bullies Norman and the women. Yet, beneath the cruelty, Ayer reveals the soldiers' jealousy. They resent Norman not just for his incompetence, but for his innocence. They resent War Daddy for playing house while they remain dogs of war. This scene is the philosophical pivot of the movie, illustrating that these men are no longer compatible with the civilization they are fighting to preserve. They are creatures of the tank, fit only for destruction. The education of Norman is a central theme that Ayer handles with brutal efficiency. War Daddy forces Norman to kill, literally wrestling him and forcing a weapon into his hand to execute a captured SS officer. It is a scene of violation, stripping Norman of his morality to save his life. By the time the film reaches its climactic third act, Norman has been transformed. He has been christened Machine by the crew, accepted into the tribe because he has shed his humanity. This leads to the final stand at the crossroads, a sequence that channels the spirit of the Alamo. With the tank immobilized by a landmine, the crew faces an entire SS battalion. The tactical logic of staying to fight is questionable. They could have fled under the cover of darkness, but the emotional logic is sound. The tank is their home. They have nowhere else to go. The ensuing battle is a chaotic, bloody crescendo of heroism and nihilism. As night falls and the SS troops swarm the tank, the film descends into a fever dream of violence. The deaths of the crew members are not treated with melodramatic slow motion, but with sudden, jarring finality. Grady is obliterated. Gordo sacrifices himself to a grenade. Bible is cut down by a sniper. The spiritual anchor of the group, Bible, quotes Isaiah chapter 6 verse 8, "Here am I, send me," framing their violence as a divine burden, a necessary damnation. War Daddy's death is the crumbling of the monolith. He dies not as a superhero, but as a man protecting his son, Norman. The final moments, where Norman hides beneath the tank and is spotted by a young German soldier who chooses to ignore him, offers the film's only glimpse of grace. It is an ambiguous moment. Does the German spare him out of pity? Out of exhaustion? Or does he see that Norman is the only one left, a terrified boy in the mud? When the American reinforcements finally arrive the next morning, the camera performs a slow, haunting crane shot, rising higher and higher above the tank. We see the carnage radiating outward from Fury, hundreds of dead bodies in the mud, a testament to the violence unleashed by 5 men in a metal box. Norman is pulled from the wreckage, hailed as a hero by the fresh troops who have no concept of what he has endured. He is driven away in an ambulance, staring blankly, his soul likely left back in the steel belly of the tank. The closing credits roll over archival footage of the war, reminding us that while the story is fiction, the context was horrifyingly real. Ultimately, Fury distinguishes itself through its refusal to apologize for its characters. It does not seek to make them likable. It seeks to make them understandable. It portrays the greatest generation, not as statues of marble virtue, but as men who were terrified, angry, exhausted, and often cruel. It suggests that heroism is not a pristine moral state, but a dirty, desperate act of survival. The film posits that war does not make boys into men. It makes them into corpses or killers. By focusing so intensely on the sensory experience of tank warfare, the smell, the sound, the claustrophobia, David Ayer created a war film that feels less like a movie and more like a traumatic memory. It is a brutal, uncompromising look at the price paid by the soul when the body is forced to become a machine of war. "Best job I ever had," the crew repeats ironically throughout the film. It is a mantra of madness, a collective delusion necessary to keep moving forward when the only other option is to stop and let the horror catch up.